I died in a mudslide on my 35th birthday, alone in a crumbling farmhouse at the edge of Clearwater Valley, clutching a decade-old photograph of a family that had forgotten I existed. When I opened my eyes again, I was 18, standing in our childhood living room, and my mother was telling me to pack my bags for the countryside because my sister needed my college fund. Lin Yue needs this opportunity more than you do, my mother said, not even looking up from her phone. The entertainment company wants to sign her, but we need money for her training, her portfolio, her wardrobe. You understand, don't you, Xiaomei? I stared at her, my mind reeling. I remembered this moment. I remembered nodding, crying quietly in my room, and getting on that bus to grandmother's village the next morning. I remembered 17 years of exile, of being the family's dirty secret, the daughter who preferred rural life, while my sister became a B-list actress who never quite made it big. I remembered the phone call 3 months ago, no, 17 years from now, when my father had asked, so casually, if I wouldn't mind signing over the land rights to grandmother's property. It's just sitting there, Xiaomei. We have investors. This could save the family. I remembered signing those papers because I was exhausted, because I had no fight left, because I still desperately wanted them to love me. I remembered dying 2 weeks later when the construction company destabilized the mountain. No, I said. My mother's head snapped up. What? I said no. My voice was steady, cold. I'm not going. My father emerged from his study, frowning. Xiao Mei, don't be selfish. Your sister has real talent. You're good at studying. You can do that anywhere. Lin Yue needs to be in the city, needs the right connections. Then let her work for it, I interrupted. Like I would have to. Lin Yue appeared at the top of the stairs, her eyes already welling with practiced tears. At 20, she had perfected the art of looking fragile. Mei Mei, I thought you'd be happy for me. I thought we were sisters. In my previous life, that look had shattered me. Now I saw it for what it was, manipulation, pure and simple. We are sisters, I said quietly, which is why you should understand when I say I'm keeping my college fund and my future. Good luck with your career, Jieji. I'm sure you'll find a way. The explosion was immediate. My mother's face turned purple. My father grabbed my arm hard enough to bruise. Lin Yue's tears turned real, but they were tears of rage, not sadness. They argued, they pleaded, they threatened. They told me I was ruining the family, that I was jealous, that I was cruel. I stood firm because I had died once already, and I knew exactly what my compliance had bought me. Nothing. 3 days later, I moved out. I had some money saved from New Year's gifts and part-time tutoring. Not much, but enough. I rented a tiny room near my high school and picked up more tutoring jobs. My family stopped calling after the first week. Lin Yue blocked me on social media. I was officially erased. It hurt less than I expected. Maybe because I'd already lived through losing them once. Maybe because I knew what was coming. What was coming was Clearwater Valley. In my previous life, I hadn't gone to grandmother's village by choice, and I'd been too depressed to pay attention to the place itself. But I remembered enough. I remembered that 5 years from now, the government would announce a massive rural revitalization project. I remembered that Clearwater Valley, with its hot springs and mountain views, would become the centerpiece of a luxury resort development. I remembered land values increasing 10,000-fold overnight. And I remembered that grandmother's property, the farmhouse and surrounding 10 acres that had been in our family for generations, would be at the absolute center of the development zone. In my previous life, the property had eventually gone to my parents through inheritance laws after grandmother died. They'd sold it to developers for a fortune, never sending me a single yuan. Lin Yue had posted photos from a luxury apartment with the caption, "Family sacrifices paying off." This time would be different. I aced my college entrance exams and got into City Finance University on a full scholarship. My family didn't attend my graduation or my university enrollment ceremony. I told myself I didn't care. I was too busy working part-time jobs, saving every penny, and researching property law. The summer before my sophomore year, I took a bus to Clearwater Valley. The village was exactly as I remembered. Small, quiet, forgotten by time. Grandmother's farmhouse sat at the edge of the village, backed by mountains and overlooking the valley. The hot springs bubbled up in the northern corner of the property. mineral-rich water that locals believed had healing properties. Grandmother was 78, sharp as a tack, and deeply suspicious of my sudden visit. "Your parents send you?" she asked, pouring tea with gnarled hands. "No," I said honestly. "They don't talk to me anymore." Her eyes narrowed. "Because you wouldn't sacrifice yourself for that vain girl?" I blinked. "You know about that?" "Your mother called me, wanted me to convince you. I told her to jump in the river." Grandmother cackled. "That Lin Yue has been spoiled rotten. You're the smart one, girl. You've got your great-grandfather's eyes. He could see through anyone's nonsense, too." We talked for hours. I told her about university, about my studies, about my plans for the future. I didn't tell her about my rebirth or what I knew was coming, but I did tell her something else. "Grandmother, I want to stay here, work the land with you, learn about the valley." She studied me for a long moment. "You're running from something or toward something." "Maybe both." "All right then," she said. "You can stay, but you work. I don't tolerate lazy hands." I spent that summer and every subsequent break in Clearwater Valley. I learned to tend grandmother's vegetable garden, to maintain the hot spring pools, to repair the old farmhouse. I also quietly researched the property records, the inheritance laws, the development rumors beginning to circulate in investment circles. In my third year of university, grandmother got sick, pneumonia. She recovered, but it frightened both of us. "I'm not getting younger," she said one evening as we sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the mountains gold. "This property, this land, it should go to family who cares about it." "It will," I assured her. "Your parents will fight for it," she warned. "They only visit when they want something. Last time your father came, he was asking about selling, about development potential." She snorted. "As if I'd let developers tear up my home." My heart raced. "What did you tell him?" "Told him the land wasn't his to worry about." She patted my hand. "I'm putting it in your name, girl. You're the only one who's ever cared about this place, about me. The papers are already with lawyer Chen in town." I tried to argue, to protest, but she was adamant. 2 weeks later, the property transfer was complete. 10 acres of Clearwater Valley land, plus the farmhouse and hot springs, officially belonged to me. My parents didn't know yet. Grandmother had instructed lawyer Chen to keep it quiet, and in a small village where everyone minded their own business, secrets kept well. I graduated university with top honors and immediately got a job at an investment firm in the city. My family didn't attend my graduation for this either. Through social media, I watched Lin Yu's career sputter and stall. She'd gotten some commercial work, some minor roles, but the breakthrough never came. My parents had spent their savings on her career investment and had nothing to show for it. I felt a grim satisfaction, but not joy. It was hard to feel joy about your family's failure, even when they discarded you like trash. I worked hard, saved aggressively, and invested carefully. I also kept my ear to the ground about Clearwater Valley. The rumors were getting louder, more specific. Government officials were surveying rural areas for the revitalization project. Real estate developers were sniffing around, buying up property options. I hired lawyer Chen on retainer and fortified my property rights with every legal mechanism available. I also invested in modest improvements to grandmother's property, a new roof, updated plumbing, reinforced foundations. I framed it as taking care of grandmother, and she beamed with pride at her successful granddaughter. "You're a good girl, Xiaomei," she'd say. "Not like those vultures." Year 4 post-rebirth was when everything began to accelerate. The government announced the Green Wave Initiative, a trillion-yuan project to develop sustainable tourism in Pan, rural areas, with Clearwater Valley selected as a flagship location. The news broke on a Monday morning. By Monday afternoon, land values in the valley had doubled. By Tuesday, they'd tripled. My phone, which hadn't rung with a family call in 4 years, suddenly wouldn't stop buzzing. I let the first 3 calls from my mother go to voicemail. The messages were increasingly frantic. "Xiaomei, call me back immediately. This is urgent family business." "Xiaomei, don't be childish. We need to discuss grandmother's property." "Xiaomei, Your father is talking to developers right now. We need your signature on some transfer documents. I didn't call back. Instead, I took a week off work and went to Clearwater Valley. The village had transformed overnight into a circus. Developers in expensive suits were going door to door, offering villagers sums that seemed astronomical. Signs advertising future site of Clearwater Paradise Resort were being erected. Survey teams were mapping the land. Grandmother's farmhouse sat in the eye of the storm, untouched, unmapped. They've been here 4 times, Grandmother told me, practically vibrating with irritation. Offering money, making threats, saying the government will seize it anyway. I told them all the same thing. Talk to my granddaughter. She owns it now. And did they? I asked. A fancy man came yesterday, left his card. She handed me an embossed business card. Chen Kai, Senior Vice President, Golden Dragon Development Corporation. I knew that name. In my previous life, Golden Dragon had been the primary developer for Clearwater Paradise. They'd bought grandmother's property from my parents for 20 million yuan, a fortune to my parents, but a fraction of what the land was actually worth. Golden Dragon had then built their flagship resort hotel directly on that site, earning hundreds of millions. This time, they'd have to negotiate with me. Chen Kai returned the next day, accompanied by 2 associates and an attitude of supreme confidence. He was the kind of handsome that came from expensive grooming, wearing a suit that cost more than most villagers made in a year. "Miss Lin," he said, smiling like a shark. "I'm so glad we can finally meet. Your grandmother is quite the guardian, but I believe you and I can speak more practically about this opportunity." "What opportunity?" I asked, my voice neutral. He gestured broadly at the valley. "Clearwater Paradise will be the crown jewel of the Green Wave Initiative. Luxury accommodations, world-class spa facilities, eco-tourism attractions. Your property is perfectly positioned at the center of our planned resort. We're prepared to offer you 15 million yuan for a complete purchase and immediate transfer." 15 million. In my previous life, my parents had gotten 20. Interesting. "No," I said simply. His smile didn't waver. "I understand it must seem sudden. Perhaps you need time to consider." "I don't need time. The answer is no." Now his smile tightened. "Miss Lin, I don't think you understand the scope of this project. This development is happening with or without your cooperation. The government has powers of eminent domain." "For public use, yes," I interrupted. "But this is a private development project. You'd need to prove public necessity and provide fair compensation based on market value. Given that your project has already inflated land values by 300% in 48 hours, fair compensation would be substantially more than 15 million. You're lowballing me, Mr. Chen." His associates exchanged glances. Chen Kai's expression hardened. "You've done your research." "I'm a financial analyst. Research is my job." "Then you should also know that holding out for more money is a dangerous game. We have other options, other configurations. If you're too difficult, we can simply build around you. Your property would become worthless, landlocked by our development." "Then do that," I said pleasantly. I'm not selling." They left angry. Grandmother cackled from the kitchen where she'd been eavesdropping. "That's my girl. Did you see his face?" I had seen his face. I'd also seen the calculation in his eyes. Chen Kai wasn't giving up. He was regrouping. My phone rang. My father. I answered this time. "Hello." "Xiao Mei." His voice was tight, controlled. "We need to talk about grandmother's property." "There's nothing to talk about. It's my property now." Silence. Then, "What do you mean, your property?" "Grandmother transferred ownership to me 2 years ago. Legally, properly, with all documentation filed with the county registry. The land is mine." More silence. Then my mother's voice, sharp and shrill in the background. "Let me talk to her." The phone changed hands. "Lin Xiaomei, what have you done?" "I accepted a gift from grandmother," I said calmly. "She wanted me to have it." "You manipulated a sick old woman. You stole family property. Grandmother was perfectly lucid and made her own decision. The lawyers verified her capacity. Everything is legal. You ungrateful, scheming. My mother's voice climbed toward hysteria. After everything we sacrificed for you, after raising you, feeding you. You mean after sending me away to make room for Lin Yu's career? After taking my college fund? After not speaking to me for 4 years? My voice remained calm, which seemed to enrage her more. I owe you nothing. That land belongs to the family. I am family. The land belongs to me. My father took the phone back. Xiaomei, be reasonable. There are developers offering serious money. This could secure all of our futures. Your mother and I have been struggling financially. Lin Yue's career didn't work out. She needs support. We're family. We should share this windfall. There it was, the real reason for the call. Not reconciliation, not apology, but money. How much did they offer you? I asked. What? Golden Dragon. How much did they offer you before they knew the land wasn't yours? Hesitation. 20 million. 20 million. Exactly what they'd gotten in my previous life. My parents had been negotiating behind grandmother's back, behind my back, ready to sell property they didn't own. Let me guess, I said, you promised them you could deliver the land. You told them you were the family representatives and that convincing one naive granddaughter would be simple. The silence was answer enough. You're not getting a single yuan from me, I said. Not now, not ever. You can't do this. My mother grabbed the phone again. That's family property. We'll sue. We'll take you to court. Please do, I said. I have excellent lawyers, and when we're in court, I'll make sure the judge hears all about how you abandoned your daughter for 4 years, how you tried to sell property that wasn't yours, how you only contacted me when you wanted money. I'm sure that will reflect wonderfully on your case. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but I felt alive in a way I hadn't since my rebirth. This was it. This was the turn. Everything I'd planned, everything I'd worked for was coming together. Grandmother touched my shoulder. You all right, girl? Better than all right, I said. I'm free. The next few weeks were chaos. My parents showed up at the village, demanding entry to the property. I had lawyer Chen inform them they were trespassing. Lin Yue posted a tearful video on social media about her cruel sister who stole the family's only asset, which backfired when some of my old classmates flooded the comments with stories about how she'd bullied me in school and how my parents had clearly played favorites. Golden Dragon increased their offer to 25 million, then 30, then 40. I said no to every offer. Chen Kai came back personally, his smooth facade cracking. What do you want? Name your price. I don't want money, I said. I want partnership. That stopped him. Partnership? Your resort is going to be built on and around this land whether I like it or not. The government approvals are going through. You've secured the surrounding properties. But you want this specific 10 acres because of the hot springs and the central location. Without it, your resort is second-rate. With it, it's world-class. So let's build it together. I contribute the land as equity. You contribute capital and development expertise. We form a joint venture, 60-40 split in your favor. I maintain ownership of the underlying land on a 99-year lease to the venture. After the lease, the land reverts to me or my heirs. Chen Kai stared at me. You want to be a developer. I want to be your partner. There's a difference. My board will never approve. Your board will love it, I interrupted. You've been stuck in negotiation hell for weeks. Your competitors are circling. The government is getting impatient. I'm Ptitsi, offering you a clean, legal path forward that locks up the prime land and makes this project actually happen. The math works. You'll make more money from a successful resort than you'd save by cutting me out. I slid a folder across the table. My proposal, have your analyst run the numbers. He took the folder, his expression unreadable. You're not what I expected. No one ever is. 3 days later, Golden Dragon's board approved the joint venture. The contracts took 2 weeks to finalize, with my lawyers and theirs fighting over every clause. But in the end, I signed as a minority partner in Clearwater Paradise Resort Development, LLC, with ironclad protections for my land ownership and guaranteed input on major decisions. The resort broke ground 6 months later. My parents tried to crash the ceremony, claiming they deserved recognition as part of the vision. Security escorted them out. Lin Yu posted another video, this one accusing me of stealing family opportunities. The comments were less sympathetic this time. Someone had dug up the story about my stolen college fund. Someone else found photos of all the family gatherings I'd been excluded from. The narrative was shifting, and not in her favor. I didn't engage. I was too busy working. The next 3 years were a blur of construction meetings, design reviews, marketing strategy sessions, and increasingly large deposits in my bank account. The resort was even more spectacular than I'd remembered from my previous life, because this time I was involved in the decisions. I pushed for eco-friendly design, for preserving the natural hot springs, for hiring local villagers for staff positions. Chen Kai resisted at first, then admitted my instincts were marketable. Sustainable luxury became our brand. Grandmother lived to see the resort's soft opening. She was 83, frail but sharp, and she cried when she saw what we'd built. The original farmhouse had been preserved as a heritage exhibit, the heart of Clearwater, telling the story of the valley's history. Her vegetable garden had been transformed into an organic farm-to-table experience for resort guests. "You did good, girl," she whispered. "You took what was ours and made it something beautiful. Not like those vultures would have done. They'd have just torn it all down for profit." She died peacefully 3 months later, in her sleep, in the farmhouse where she'd been born. I buried her in the valley, in a plot overlooking the mountains she'd loved. My parents came to the funeral. They tried to speak to me, but I walked past them without a word. Lin Yue sent flowers and a card that said, "Family is forever." I threw both in the trash. Clearwater Paradise Resort had its grand opening in year 7 post-Rebirth. It was everything I'd imagined and more, elegant buildings that seemed to grow from the mountainside, hot spring pools cascading down natural rock formations, hiking trails through preserved forest, and world-class spa, and a 5-star restaurant showcasing local cuisine. Early reviews called it transformative, a model for sustainable tourism, the future of luxury travel. The resort was profitable within 8 months, wildly profitable within 18. My 40% stake made me wealthy beyond anything my family could have imagined. Chen Kai and I maintained a respectful working relationship, not friends, but effective partners. Golden Dragon's stock price soared on the success of the flagship property. I used some of the money to establish a scholarship fund for rural students, kids like I'd been, smart but resource poor, overlooked by families chasing shinier prospects. I funded it generously and anonymously, though word got out eventually. A journalist wrote a feature about the Clearwater Angel. I declined to be interviewed. My parents found out about my wealth, of course. Money has a way of attracting attention. They showed up at my city apartment. I'd upgraded to a penthouse overlooking the river, with Lin Yue in tow. My doorman called up. "Ms. Lin, there are people here claiming to be your family." "Tell them I'm not available," I said. I did. "They're refusing to leave. They're causing a scene in the lobby." I sighed. "Send them up." I could have had security throw them out. Part of me wanted to, but another part, the part that had died alone in a mudslide, still clutching their photo, needed closure. They looked older. My father's hair had gone gray at the temples. My mother had lines around her mouth from years of pursing her lips in disapproval. Lin Yue was 30 now, her actress phase clearly over, dressed in clothes that were expensive trying to look expensive rather than actually expensive. "Xiao Mei," my mother began, her voice artificially warm. "You've done so well for yourself. We're so proud." "Stop," I said. "Just stop." They fell silent, surprised. "You're here for money," I said flatly. "So let's skip the pretense. How much do you want?" My father at least had the grace to look embarrassed. "Xiao Mei, it's not like that. We're family." "We're not," I interrupted. Family doesn't abandon each other. Family doesn't sacrifice one child for another's vanity project. Family doesn't show up after a decade only when there's profit to be had. That's not fair, Lin Yue protested. We did what we thought was best. I had talent. I had potential. And I didn't? I asked quietly. I was top of my class. I had scholarship offers. I had dreams too. But my dreams didn't matter because they weren't as shiny as yours. You're being dramatic, my mother sniffed. We gave you a home, food, education. The bare minimum required by law, I said. Congratulations on meeting the lowest possible standard of parenting. How dare you? My mother's face flushed. After everything we sacrificed, what did you sacrifice? I demanded, my voice rising. You sacrificed me. You took my college fund, my future, my place in this family, and you fed it all to her. I pointed at Lin Yue. And for what? A few commercial appearances and some minor roles? Was it worth it? Was destroying one daughter's life worth the chance that the other might become famous? Lin Yue's eyes filled with tears. Real ones this time, I thought. I didn't know, she whispered. I didn't know it would be like this. Yes, you did, I said, not cruelly but firmly. You knew. You just didn't care because it benefited you. Silence fell over the penthouse. Outside, the city glittered with lights. Inside, a family that wasn't really a family anymore stood facing the truth they'd been avoiding for a decade. I want you to leave, I said finally. I want you to leave and never contact me again. I don't want your apologies, your explanations, or your excuses. I certainly don't want your requests for money. But we're struggling, my mother said, and for the first time, I heard something genuine in her voice. Fear. Your father's business failed. We have debts. Lin Yue can't find work. Not my problem. How can you be so cold? She grabbed my arm. Lin, we're your parents. You stopped being my parents when you put me on that bus to the countryside, Buzz, I said, pulling away. You made your choice, now live with it. My father spoke for the first time since entering, his voice heavy. If we'd known how things would turn out, you'd have what? Treated me better? I shook my head. No, you'd have tried to control me, to take credit for my success, to squeeze every advantage out of me just like you tried to do with Lin Yue. The only difference is I wouldn't have let you. Please, Lin Yue said. We need help, just a little bit to get back on our feet. I could give you money, I said slowly. I have more than enough. But do you know what would happen? You'd spend it. Then you'd come back for more. And more because you'd never learn. You'd never change. You'd just see me as an ATM with a grudge, something to be managed and manipulated. That's not true, my mother protested weakly. It is true. It's exactly true. I walked to the door and opened it. I think you should go now. They didn't move immediately. They stood there, perhaps hoping I'd relent, perhaps finally processing that this wasn't a negotiation. I wasn't bargaining or playing games. I was done. Xiao Mei, my father tried one last time. Please, family. Family is the people who stand by you when you have nothing, I said. Grandmother was my family. The villagers who welcomed me were my family. The scholarship students I help now are more my family than you ever were. You're just people that used to know. Lin Yue started crying in earnest now, messy and inelegant. I'm sorry, she sobbed. I'm so sorry. I was selfish and awful, and I'm sorry. I looked at her, this woman who'd been given everything and squandered it, and I felt nothing. Not anger, not satisfaction, not even pity, just emptiness where there used to be pain. Your apology is 10 years too late, I said. And I don't need it anymore. I stopped needing anything from any of you a long time ago. They left. My mother was crying too by the end, and my father looked broken. I closed the door and stood in my beautiful penthouse, alone and free. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt tired, but I also felt complete. This was what I'd been reborn for. Not just to reclaim the land, not just to build wealth, but to reclaim myself. To stop being the daughter who bent and broke for people who didn't value her. To become someone who could look at her abusers and feel nothing because they no longer had power over her. The next day, I flew back to Clearwater Valley for a board meeting. The resort was expanding, 2 new wings, a conference center, an adventure park. We were also in talks with the government about preserving more of the surrounding forest as a protected area. The project was becoming my legacy, something I could be proud of. Chen Kai pulled me aside after the meeting. I heard your family came to see you. News travels fast. Small business community, people talk. He studied me. Are you all right? I'm fine. Liar. He smiled slightly. But that's your business. I just wanted to say what you've built here, what we've built together, it's remarkable. And I'm sorry your family can't see that. Can't see you. Their loss, I said lightly. No, he said seriously, it's their loss. But I think you already know that. I did know that. I'd known it since the moment I woke up at 18 with a second chance. Some people spend their whole lives trying to earn love from those who'll never give it. I'd spent one life doing that. This life I'd chosen differently. That evening, I hiked up to grandmother's grave. Someone, probably the groundskeeper, had left fresh flowers. I sat beside the headstone and watched the sun set over the valley, painting everything in shades of gold and crimson. I did it, grandmother, I said quietly. I protected the land. I built something beautiful, and I survived them. The wind whispered through the trees, and I could almost hear her cackling approval. Year 10 post-rebirth was when the real vindication came, though I didn't plan it that way. A major international business magazine ran a feature on the new wave of female entrepreneurs in China. I was on the cover, photographed against the backdrop of Clearwater Paradise Resort, with a headline that read, "From Abandoned Daughter to Development Mogul, the Lin Xiaomei Story." The article was comprehensive, detailing my family background with uncomfortable honesty. It talked about the stolen college fund, the exile to the countryside, the estrangement. It talked about grandmother's gift and my vision for sustainable development. It talked about the scholarship fund and my philosophy of lifting others up. It also mentioned, in passing, that my sister, Lin Yue, had briefly pursued an acting career funded by family resources before fading into obscurity. The article went viral. Within days, I was getting interview requests from major media outlets, speaking invitations from business conferences, even a call from a government ministry asking me to consult on rural development policy. My parents and Lin Yue were also getting attention, but not the kind they wanted. Social media tore into them. Old classmates came forward with stories of their favoritism, their cruelty, their obsession with appearances. Someone found Lin Yu's old tearful videos about her cruel sister, and the comments were savage. So you bullied your sister, took her money, abandoned her, and then called her cruel when she succeeded without you? The audacity. Imagine fumbling your talented daughter this badly. Plot twist. The selfish daughter was the only one who actually had talent and work ethic. I didn't participate in any of it. I accepted a few select interviews and spoke about my work, my vision, my gratitude to grandmother, but I never directly attacked my family. I didn't need to. The facts spoke for themselves. Lin Yue tried to launch a comeback, framing herself as someone who'd learned from mistakes and wanted to reconcile. It was transparently opportunistic. Nobody bought it. My parents went silent, retreating from public view. I heard through distant relatives that they'd moved to a smaller city, living modestly on my father's pension. They never contacted me again. In year 12 post-rebirth, Clearwater Paradise won International Resort of the Year at a prestigious hospitality awards ceremony. I attended the black tie event in Hong Kong, gave a gracious acceptance speech, and posed for photos with Chen Kai and our team. Backstage, a young woman approached me. She was maybe 22, with earnest eyes and a scholarship fund pin on her dress. "Ms. Lin, I'm Chen Yao. I'm one of your scholarship recipients. I just wanted to thank you. Because of your fund, I got to go to university. I'm graduating this spring with a degree in environmental engineering. I smiled at her. That's wonderful. What are your plans? I want to work in sustainable development, she said shyly. Like you, I want to help build things that last, that help people without destroying the environment. You inspired me. Something tight in my chest loosened. This, I thought, this is what it's all for. Come see me after graduation, I said. We're always looking for talented engineers, and I think you'd fit right in. Her eyes went wide. Really? Really. She left beaming, and I felt lighter than I had in years. Maybe decades if I counted my previous life. I'd been reborn to reclaim land, yes, but I'd also been reborn to reclaim possibility, not just for myself, but for others like me. The scholarship fund, the hiring of local villagers, the preservation of the valley's natural beauty, these weren't just business decisions. They were choices about what kind of legacy I wanted to leave. My family had tried to sacrifice me for Lin Yue's dreams. In return, I'd built something that would outlast all of us, something that would help hundreds of people achieve their own dreams. That felt like justice. Better than justice, it felt like meaning. Year 15 post-Rebirth was when I finally let go of the last threads of anger. I was hiking near the resort, checking on a new conservation project, when I literally ran into someone on the trail. We both stumbled. I reached out to steady them and found myself face to face with Lin Yue. She looked terrible. Older than her 35 years, worn down by life in a way that had nothing to do with physical appearance. Her clothes were cheap but clean. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. She looked, for the first time I could remember, ordinary. Xiao Mei, she said, her voice barely a whisper. I should have walked away. I'd earned that right. But something made me pause. Lin Yue, I said neutrally. I'm not here to bother you, she said quickly. I work nearby at a shop in the village. I didn't know you'd be here today. You work in Clearwater Village? For about 6 months now. She looked at the ground. I needed a job, needed to get away from the city. A friend had connections here. I know it's your place, your resort, your land. If you want me to leave, I don't own the whole village, I interrupted. Just the resort property. You have as much right to be here as anyone. She looked up surprised. I thought you'd hate me forever. I don't hate you, I said honestly. I don't really feel anything about you anymore. That seemed to hurt her more than hatred would have. I deserve that. We stood there in awkward silence, the sun filtering through the trees. I'm sorry, she said finally. I know it's worthless now. I know you don't care, but I need to say it anyway. I'm sorry for everything. For being selfish. For letting them sacrifice you for me, for going along with it because it was easier. I'm sorry for not speaking up, for not fighting for you, for not being a real sister. I looked at her and saw not my tormentor, but a woman who'd been spoiled by parents who didn't know how to love properly, who'd been set up to fail by being given everything without learning how to work for anything, who'd spent 15 years learning hard lessons that I'd learned in one life and refused to repeat in another. Okay, I said. She blinked. Okay? I accept your apology, and I hope you figure out your life, build something real, find some kind of peace. I meant it. But I don't want a relationship with you. I don't want reconciliation or sisterly bonding or family dinners. That ship sailed 10 years ago. I understand, she said quietly. For what it's worth, I'm proud of you. Of what you built. You were always the smart one, the strong one. I was just too stupid and vain to see it. You weren't stupid, I said. You were young and spoiled and misled by people who should have known better. But that's not an excuse, just context. Thank you for that, at least. She hesitated. Can I ask, are you happy? I thought about it. About my work, my achievements, my scholarship students, my life of purpose and meaning. About the fact that I'd taken a second chance and built something beautiful from ashes and resentment. Yes, I said, I'm happy. Good, she said, and I thought she meant it. That's good. We parted ways on that mountain trail, two sisters who'd never really known each other and never would. It was sad in a distant way, like hearing about a tragedy in a foreign country. Unfortunate, but not personal. I didn't forgive my family exactly. Forgiveness implies a restoration of relationship, a rebuilding of trust, but I did release them. Let go of the weight of their expectations, their failures, their need for me to be something I wasn't. They were just people now, people who'd made terrible choices and lived with the consequences. Not my people, not my problem, not my pain. By year 17 post-rebirth, the year I would have died in my previous life, Clearwater Paradise had become a model for sustainable tourism throughout Asia. We'd won international awards, hosted environmental conferences, been featured in documentaries about eco-friendly development. The scholarship fund had put over 200 students through university. I'd also expanded into consulting, helping other rural areas develop without destroying their natural resources or displacing their communities. It was satisfying work, meaningful work, the kind of legacy that would outlast any amount of money. Chen Kai and I had developed an actual friendship over the years, built on mutual respect and shared vision. We had dinner once a month to discuss business and life. Do you ever regret it? He asked one evening over expensive wine. The way you handled your family? Some people would have been more generous, tried to mend fences. No, I said without hesitation. Generosity to people who hurt you isn't kindness. It's self-destruction. I spent one lifetime letting them use me. I won't spend this one doing it too. This one? He raised an eyebrow. I smiled mysteriously. Figure of speech. He laughed. You know, when we first met, I thought you were just a stubborn kid with more confidence than sense. I was wrong. You're the most strategically minded person I've ever worked with. I had good motivation, I said lightly. Revenge? Justice, I corrected. And self-preservation, there's a difference. On the anniversary of what would have been my death, the day the mudslide would have buried me in another timeline, I hiked up to the highest point overlooking Clearwater Valley. The resort sparkled below, elegant and thriving. The forest stretched green and untouched beyond our boundaries, protected by conservation easements I'd fought. 4. The hot springs still bubbled with mineral water, now enjoyed by guests from around the world instead of just local villagers. I thought about the Xiao Mei who'd died at 35, alone and forgotten, still hoping her family would love her. I thought about the Xiao Mei who'd woken at 18 with a second chance and the knowledge of what that hope had cost. I did it, I said aloud to that ghost self, to grandmother, to the universe. I saved us, both of us. The wind carried my words away, and I felt lighter than air. I'd been reborn to reclaim land, but I'd ended up reclaiming something more important, my own life, my own choices, my own definition of success. I'd turned pain into purpose, abandonment into ambition, family rejection into chosen family. My parents had sent me to the countryside to clear the path for my sister's career. They'd thought they were discarding me, a sacrifice worth making for the daughter they valued more. Instead, they'd set me free. They'd given me distance from their toxicity, space to grow on my own terms, and eventually, through grandmother's love and wisdom, the greatest opportunity of my life. They'd tried to ruin me and ended up making me. That was the sweetest revenge of all. Succeeding not just despite them, but because of them, using their worst intentions as the foundation for my best life. Year 18 was my 36th birthday, 1 year older than I'd lived in my previous life. I threw a party at the resort, inviting everyone who'd actually mattered. Lawyer Chen and his family, my scholarship students, the villagers who'd welcomed me, Chen Kai and the Golden Dragon team, environmental activists I'd worked with, journalists who'd told my story fairly. No family. They weren't invited. They didn't exist in this version of my story except as cautionary footnotes. During the party, Chen Yao, now a successful engineer on my team, gave a toast to Ms. Lin, who proved that the best revenge is building something beautiful. Everyone cheered. I smiled and raised my glass, but silently I corrected her. The best revenge isn't building something beautiful. It's building something beautiful and realizing you're not doing it for revenge anymore. You're doing it because you love it, because it matters, because you've moved so far beyond your abusers that they're not even part of the equation anymore. That's freedom. That's victory. That's rebirth. I looked out over the valley, my valley, and felt nothing but gratitude for the second chance, for grandmother's wisdom, for the hardness I'd had to develop and the softness I'd managed to keep despite everything. My family had sent me to the countryside for her career. After Rebirth, I'd owned not just the land they wanted to develop, but my own narrative, my own power, my own future. And I'd built an empire from the ashes of their neglect. That was worth more than their love had ever been, worth more than revenge, worth more than anything. It was worth everything.